Hello.
Hello, everyone. So here we are. This is the live show for the Thieves Book Club for The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. I'm still not sure how to pronounce it, if I'm being completely honest. I think it's Michaelides? Michaelides?
I don't know either.
I don't know.
This book. So, as always, we're going to introduce ourselves, and then we're going to do a quick, non-spoilery section with all of our non-spoilery thoughts, and then we'll give you trigger warnings because there are a few for this book. Actually, not just a few, a lot. And then we'll move on to the spoilery section. So, obviously, you probably know me since you're on my channel. My name is Sarah. I'm from the channel Sarah the Dreamer, and that's pretty much all that you need to know about me before we begin. So introduce themselves next.
I'll go. I'm Hillary from Melted Books, and do we usually say what we're currently reading? Can I throw that in there? Or do you want to do yours, Sarah, and then I'll say mine?
I'm not currently reading anything, so keep on going.
All right. Okay. So I started my September TBR early, and I'm reading One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. I'm listening to the audiobook, and I'm loving it so far.
It's so good. I really hope you enjoy it.
Yeah. I can go next. I'm Sophia from the channel Sophia Reads. I'm not currently reading anything, but I'm about to start Sense and Sensibility. Yeah, I'm doing the Jane Austen read along, so I'm reading it for the first time, and I'm going to start probably this afternoon. Yeah, but
oh my God.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Hi, everybody, welcome.
Oh my God, that's so exciting! I hope you love it.
Yes, I really hope you like it.
I'm so excited.
Oh my God, yeah. Okay, hello. I'm Mary from the channel Mary Among Stories, and as always, I'm reading way too many things. So let's go. Let's speed through this. Okay, I'm almost done with North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell, which I was buddy reading with Sarah, but
That's
you have probably finished it, right?
I finished it. Yeah.
Okay. Did you like it?
I completely forgot to send a message to the chat. I just realized, wow.
It's okay.
Shame.
Wow.
But
it's
yeah,
okay.
I finished it like a month ago.
Wow. Okay. There you go. I'm the slowest buddy reader ever. But
that's fine. That's complete.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm almost done also with The Wonder by Emma Donoghue, which is like an historical fiction slash mystery. It's really good. I'm really liking it. I just started Felix Ever After by Kessin Calendar. Really excited for this one. I'm really enjoying it so far. I think some of you have read this one. No?
Yes, I really like it.
Okay. Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Okay. I'm really enjoying it too, and it is so pretty. I love the spine.
Oh wow.
Ooh. Yeah, it's really pretty.
Such pretty spread edges.
Yeah. And finally, we have this beast.
Oh my God.
Love the reaction. Yeah, I'm about to start this one, and I am terrified. So there's that.
I'm really looking forward to your thoughts on that one.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Have you read it? Has anybody else read it here?
I have. I did like a 50-50 split, or maybe it was not that quite ratio, but physical book and audiobook, because at a certain point, I think the audiobook or the physical copy was just going too slow for me. Like it was too chunky. So I switched to the audiobook. And I think overall I had a positive experience with it, except for some really gross scenes, but yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, I have the audiobook as well. I think I will read along with the physical copy.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So should we start with our non-spoilery thoughts about The Maidens?
Sure.
Yes.
So like we all said at the beginning, we finished this book, like pretty much all of us finished it like really, really not that long ago. So all of our thoughts are very, very fresh, except Hillary, who was reasonable and read it like at a normal pace, like a normal human being.
I mean,
Wow.
I finished it a couple weeks ago, but the advantage that you all have is that it's fresh in your mind and it is not necessarily fresh in mine. So
True.
bear with me as I remember probably some plot details and stuff like that.
Sure.
That's all right. We'll figure it out together, I'm sure. But if we can give like a quick synopsis, I guess I can do it. Basically, it's about this woman named Mariana, and she has a niece, Zoe, who is studying at Cambridge. And at one point, Zoe calls her up and she tells her that like one of her friends has been found dead in Cambridge. And so Mariana goes over there to like support her emotionally. And she slowly gets really convinced that the murderer is actually the Greek tragedy professor who is teaching at Cambridge and who is also the teacher of this group of female students who call themselves the Maiden and basically adore him. And so, yeah, Mariana starts to be completely convinced that he is the murderer, that he is targeting these women. And so she starts to investigate and she tries to basically prove that he's guilty. So, yeah, that's what I would say. So, who wants to go first?
Can we go around again? Like,
Sure.
Sure. But where do we start? Do I start? Do Hillary start?
sure. I don't know.
You start, Sarah. I nominate you.
Okay. I don't know what star rating I would give this book because I enjoyed it, but there are definitely certain things that. Oh, did you hear that? Sorry, my computer just made that noise. I enjoyed it, but there are definitely like some parts of it that I wasn't like such a big fan of. Especially, I want to say probably for me is the writing. Like the writing style I found was very generic at times. And I don't know if you'll agree with me, but I feel like sometimes it was just like very like typical thriller writing style. Like it wasn't like flowery or that atmospheric or anything. Like it was just, I don't know, just pretty basic to me. So that's definitely something that I wanted to point out. I liked our main character, Mariana, I think. Sometimes I found that she was a little bit strange, but I think that you're supposed to find her strange, and she's not. I don't think that she's supposed to be like a very trustworthy main character. At least from my experience, like sometimes I was definitely like, but did you do it though? Maybe that's a possibility. But yeah, I enjoyed that. I have to say I was a little bit spooked sometimes, which I was kind of like expecting because I'm really bad with reading like anything that is like thriller or horror. Like I get scared way too easily. And I definitely think that like certain elements were added there, especially one character in particular, which we'll probably talk about in the spoilery section. I felt like he was there for like absolutely no reason, just to be like creepy. If you've read the book, you might know who I'm talking about. But yeah, there were definitely some times where I was just like swept into it, and I was like, "Oh my god, okay, this is getting scary. I don't like it." Like I stopped reading it last night because I was like, "No, it's getting dark, and I don't like it." So it definitely worked in that sense. Like it definitely spooked me, and I also really loved the setting. Like the Cambridge setting, I found was super interesting. I loved all of the different references to Greek mythology because I love Greek mythology, as I feel like we all know at this point. And yeah, so overall, I would say I enjoyed it, but it didn't like, I don't think that it's the kind of book that I would love to like, own and like go back to and reread it like 10,000 times. Not only because it's a thriller and like people don't really tend to reread thrillers. Sometimes I do. Like if I really love a mystery novel, I will maybe go back to it. But yeah, it was a fun time. I enjoyed reading it. Was it like the best book I've ever read? No, but it was really enjoyable. I want to say. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. I'm curious, did you read The Silent Patient?
I didn't.
Okay. So this is your first time reading this author.
Yeah, it was my first time reading his work. Yeah.
Okay. I pronounce his name Alex Michaelides. I have no idea if that's right, but if I ever say his name, that's how I'm going to say it during the show.
We're going to go with that.
I had read The Silent Patient, so I went into this like kind of expecting there to be a really huge plot twist, which I would say there was. And I agree that his writing isn't necessarily distinctive based on the writing alone. I can see what you mean by the fact that it does feel like kind of generic and like anyone could have written this almost. But I think that the way that he weaves the story together is pretty distinctive. And I think that if someone had put this book in my hands and been like, take a guess as to who wrote this, there's a chance I might have guessed Alex Michaelides, just because there were some similarities, I thought, to The Silent Patient. Let me see. How do I gather my thoughts here? I also don't really know exactly where this falls on like a star rating scale. I want to say like probably 3 to 4 star range, like high 3 stars.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
I never said that, but yeah, it's in between like a 3 and a 4. I want to say.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it had really good pacing. I got into the story right away, and I did really enjoy the fact that there was the breakaway from like the main storyline that you're following, and then there were these scenes that were like some other character's perspective that are thrown in there, and you're like trying to figure out who it is or what's going on, and just like placing that in the context of the present time of everything going on. I like it when the stories do that, so I enjoyed that. I would say that there were a few too many characters for my ability to keep track of, just like from an audiobook perspective. So I did have to like write down all of them. But overall, I think I enjoyed Mariana, although I wouldn't say that I totally agreed with all of her decisions. And we can get into that more in the spoiler section. But yeah, overall, I thought this was a positive book for me. Like I said, high 3 stars. And I can't wait to talk about what we all think of the stuff that happened later on in the book, as things started to get really twisty.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So yeah, I think I have a lot of similar thoughts that you guys have. I think my biggest issue with the book was like the structure of it felt a little weird to me. It was split into these parts that didn't seem to like have like the parts like weren't in separate periods of time. It didn't really seem to have a purpose. So I was a little bit confused about like why the 5 parts. And then it did seem like a little bit repetitive in the way that it was written, because Mariana will like, you know, suspect somebody or want to talk to somebody, and they would go to this like old place in Cambridge and they would talk, and then she'd like pick the next person. And I'm like, okay, it's a little bit repetitive in the way that was written. But I agree definitely with you guys that there were parts that I found really suspenseful and scary. And I will say I thought that I had this book completely figured out, and then the end really surprised me. I recently read a bunch of thrillers where I didn't feel that way, so it was nice to feel like thrilled at the end and excited by the ending. I think I ended up rating it a 3 stars on Goodreads. I just finished it recently, so I'm still kind of thinking through my thoughts, but I did enjoy it. And I also did enjoy some of the nods to The Silent Patient throughout the book, which you can definitely read this book without reading The Silent Patient, but I thought that it was kind of cool that was a little bit woven into it. Yeah, overall a good read. Not my favorite thriller, but I enjoyed it.
Okay. Mary. I'm so scared to hear what you're
Mary's going to be like, I hated it.
I mean,
because I feel like it's not at all your type of book, so I'm just like so curious to hear what you thought. Okay, go.
Okay. I am so happy you all enjoyed it, because I hated it.
Ooh.
I'm so sorry. Like I would give it like 1.5 stars. I really didn't like it.
Ouch.
I'm so sorry. Oh my god.
Oh no, don't apologize. Hear what you have to think though.
Yeah.
Tell us everything. I'm
Listen,
so curious.
It had all the right ingredients, right? Greek mythology, a mystery, dark academia, school setting. Love all of that. I hated the protagonist. Like I will get more into it in the spoilery section, obviously. But for me, she only had 2 traits, which were making dumb decisions and talking about her husband, and that's it. I'm sorry. We were supposed to root for this person, and I just could not. Something else that I really didn't like was how they approached therapy. I really didn't like it. Again, we'll get more into that in the spoilery section, but I thought it was very disrespectful to some point. So I will explain that later. But then the plot twist, I saw it coming from a mile away. Like, I guessed it right away. And that's because the author tried so hard to make all these other characters seem suspicious that I never suspected them. And so there was only one left. You know what I mean? I was like, there is no reason for me to suspect these people other than you telling me that they look suspicious. That's not a good enough reason. So I don't know if that makes sense, but...
No, I understand what you mean.
Yeah. So what I will give it is that it is a fast read. I read it quite quickly. And it was engaging in that sense because I was invested in the story. But I just really didn't like the execution. I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know. It had the potential. I haven't read The Silent Patient either. So I'm not sure. I've heard some reviews saying that this is definitely worse. So I'm not sure. But yeah, I was not a fan. I had way too many problems with it. Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh my god. Well, sorry you didn't like it.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'm glad you all enjoyed it. Otherwise, this would be a very negative live show. So I'm glad.
At least what you said, like it reads so fast. I love.
Yeah, it does.
It had like the chapters are like 2 to 3, maybe 5 pages, which I love when books do that because you just fly through them. It's so easy to read when they do that, and I mean thrillers do tend to do that. From my experience, I think I don't read a lot of thrillers, but yeah, it just really helps with the pace. So yeah, at least it was a fast read.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It was over quickly for Mary.
Exactly. I didn't have to suffer much. No, I'm sorry. Oh my god. Okay. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, okay. Do we want to talk a little bit about trigger warnings before we get into it? Because I feel like there are definitely a couple that we should definitely mention.
Yeah.
First of all, murder, and pretty gruesome murder. I don't think that the description is that bad. Like, it's not that graphic, but I mean, if you have a wild imagination like I do, it's pretty easy to like picture it in your mind, and it's not fun. So definitely that. Definitely grooming too.
Yeah.
Like, the professor and between the professors and the students.
Yeah.
What else? Like, oh my gosh, death of an animal, physical abuse, mental abuse, violence, like from a parent to a child.
Yep.
I don't know how to say that.
Yeah.
Domestic violence.
Domestic violence as well. Yeah, you're right.
There's also mention of self-harm briefly.
Yeah.
And sexual assault. I think.
Sexual assault as well. And is there anything else? I don't.
Like grief, loss.
Yeah, grief, losing someone.
Yeah, absolutely. Loss of a loved one. I don't think. Yeah, there isn't any like drug use, or I mean, there's alcohol, but it's not like.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not that intense. So yeah, I would say that pretty much sums it up, right?
I think so.
So.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
All right. So if you haven't read The Maidens, you can exit now. Keep the mystery to yourself, and we are going to dive into this. So let's begin. All right. Okay, what do we start with? Oh my gosh, I feel like we've talked a little bit about Mariana and how we're not really sure about her. So how about we start with her? I agree, Mary, that she seemed to pretty much have like 2 personality traits. You're very right. I don't think she was like the most well-developed character. And I think that maybe if the book had been a little bit longer, maybe we would have gotten more. Like, I love the fact that it was a quick read and it was fast-paced and like all of that was super nice. But also sometimes like in mysteries, I prefer when there's like more, there's more time to create like all of that tension and all of that buildup. I feel like this one went like super fast, like in a blur. So I feel like definitely like the character development was maybe not the strongest suit of this book.
Yeah. Not at all.
I felt like her decision making and like her reactions to things were very strange. Like the Henry guy who would just like appear with a knife and be like, hey, I'm like going to like, I need you and I'm like going to kill you. It's like just being like really, really terrifying. She was like, oh, it's fine. I'll deal with this later. And I'm like, why are we not more scared about this?
Yeah, I mean, the second that he started stalking her like outside her house, I was like, what the heck are you doing? Like, this is so dangerous. Like, please do something. Like, I know he's your patient, but what the heck? Also, Henry is a character that I think had absolutely no reason to be.
No reason whatsoever.
Yeah, I fully agree.
And literally, like, he gets there with a knife, and then 3 pages later, he's like sorted out. He's like in the asylum. Everything's fine. I was like, what?
Yeah, there was supposed to be some kind of like red herring to like throw us off the trail of who the real killer was, but it ended so quickly. So like, what was the point?
Yes, the only
exactly.
reason was there was like to stalk her and being like, I see you, or like, and shit like that, which really freaked me out. But also like didn't have like I feel like it was literally the only reason why it was here, to make us feel spooked.
Yeah, but she's a therapist though. Why didn't she get him help? You know what I mean? Like there were so many red flags there. Why didn't she do anything? Are you kidding me? Like I don't get it.
I feel like she isn't supposed to be like very emotionally stable, like I like from the second that we learn that she's a therapist and then we start to get to know her better, I'm like, girl, how do you still have clients? Like, you're clearly not over like the death of your husband. You're clearly not thinking like very clearly, because some of these decisions were not. I was like, why? So I feel like, so that's why I feel like she was kind of like an unreliable character, because she just like didn't seem to really know what she was doing. Obviously she didn't. I mean, she truly didn't. And I kind of don't understand why she got so obsessed with like Edward Fosca from the get-go. Like this, it never really is explained, other than the fact that like Zoe seems to like be wary of him. But other than that, like she just snatched on him and she wouldn't let it go. And I was like, oh my God. Like he literally has an alibi for both of these things. Like he cannot be in two places at the same time. So it was just like, it was weird. I felt like she was just like really holding on to that idea and really not letting it go just because she wanted him to be like the murderer, which is kind of, which is the book, but also like it didn't really make any sense. So that's why I was just like, this woman is not stable.
And then she suspected him and went to have dinner with him alone at night at his place without telling anyone, nor the police. Like, what are you doing? And she did the same thing with Zoe as well at the end. So what? And someone explain that to me, because I don't get it.
I feel like maybe that's a sign that this book was written by a man, because any women with brain would never.
I mean, I don't even know.
It really that she kept his dinner with him a secret. That just sent up so many red flags.
That's like, dangerous. Like I feel like unless you're like extremely naive and you don't know better, this can happen. And I'm not blaming like anyone who does that and gets into trouble. But I feel like, if you think he's a murderer, why on earth would you do that?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
What? So
she had no reason to think that, by the way. She had no evidence whatsoever.
Yeah, other than the postcards. But
that's nothing. Yeah, that's nothing.
Which, by the way, do we know who sent those?
Wasn't that like Sebastian who planned the whole thing? I think Zoe sent them.
It was Zoe, yeah.
Yeah.
I
It
think she,
didn't make sense, but
like-
I think that's it.
yeah, it was like throw us off. Or like yeah.
I was very confused by the timeline of the Sebastian thing because, like, didn't they find his body like so many years ago? Wasn't that him, or was that a?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
then, like, how did he know that, like, years later, this professor was gonna like have these specific maidens? Like, what? I didn't understand.
No, but the okay, wait. I think from what I understood, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that like they spoke with Zoe and she told them
Yeah.
obviously the whole point is that they were having an affair behind Marianne.
Yeah.
So obviously she would have told him more about the maidens and about Fosca than she did to Mariana. But I remember that like she had told them about him, like when she saw them together the last time, and then they went to Greece, and then he died,
Oh, that's
and
right.
then and then she decided, and then he gave her like all of those letters,
Yeah.
which we I assume are the things that we get in those random bits and pieces. And then she decided like, because the last one is like you will need to have like a sacrifice or whatever, and then like she learned about this whole entire like thing that they did in ancient Greece, and so she decided to kind of like recreate that as kind of like a way to, I don't know if she wanted to bring him back, I'm not sure if I understood it correctly, but yeah, like something like this. I feel like it's something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know why, but it seemed like the way that Mariana was like grieving him and like how everything happened, it felt more distant than it like actually was, I think, for me. That Sebastian had died longer ago.
I think it wasn't like even a year or something.
But it sounds like it was more recent.
I think that's also because the first chapters focused so much on her grief. Like we weren't even invested in her or Sebastian yet, and the author already gave us a lot of her feelings towards that. So I guess that's why it felt like he had died a long time ago, I guess.
Yeah. Maybe. But also like if it wasn't that long ago, it makes sense that she's still like very
sure.
in grief. But also, why do you have clients?
Who are these poor people?
Like
I really hated when Henry went directly to her and asked for help, and she was like, "I'm a group therapist. I cannot do anything for you."
Yeah, that was
what?
That was
I'm sorry.
Especially, but I mean, for me, it was more like, why aren't you doing something? Because he's literally stalking you, like staying outside of your house. Like I didn't even think about him. I thought about like, why aren't you like protecting yourself from this individual who is obviously not all right and has a tendency to become like violent. I mean, yes, give him help, absolutely. But also the first thing that popped into my mind was like, like, I'm not sure I would love to be alone in a room with him, but all right.
Also, why does every man fall in love with her on the first second? What was that about?
There were so many love interests, and I was like, I hate all of them. Like, there was Fred, there was the professor, there was Henry, there was who else?
Like when the professor just randomly kissed her, I was like, what the?
I hated that.
I hated that. It was so random. Like, okay, maybe it was a way for him to like assert his dominance or whatever, but it was so random, and also that's crappy behavior. Obviously, he's not a good person. But yeah, it was weird. It was so weird. And Fred. Who else suspected Fred? Please tell me I'm not the only one.
Yeah, like the whole time. But I was like, so obviously, like the professor at first, you're like, okay, well, she's going here to investigate this guy. So like for about 5 pages, I was like into that plot line. But then when Fred like appeared and he was like, he had like the picture of like him and his family dog in his room.
Yes,
I was like,
oh, it's him. And then the entire time until the last couple of chapters, I was like, please realize that it's this fucking guy. Can we please? 1 second. Like I was not sure.
But then when he was like following them, he was following Zoe and Mariana. I was like, there are too many pages left. Like, it can't just be him, and then they're gonna get like murdered for 30 pages. Like there has to be something else.
Yeah. it was kind of, he was kind of a weirdo too, with like his visions and stuff like that. I was like,
What was that?
yeah,
Yeah,
what's
it's weird.
going on with you? It had absolutely nothing to the story. And he was like, oh, one day I'm going to ask you to marry you and you're going to say yes. And I was just like, who says that to,
Yeah.
like, to a person when they first meet them? I was like, you are weird, sir.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah, he was weird.
Yeah, it was so weird. That's why I was just like, you're suspicious. And then but I feel like the pictures in his rooms were just like such a throwaway line, and I was just like, oh my god, it's him. And like, but maybe that's too like obvious, and then I'm gonna be disappointed. But then we got to the end, and I was just like, okay, like it was like, I feel like, well, maybe you guessed it. Maybe you can tell us why you guessed it. Well, except for the fact that like, you felt like he was trying too hard to make you suspicious of everybody else. But I feel like it's kind of like impossible to suspect that like she was the one doing it because of Sebastian. Like maybe
I guessed it. Yeah.
No,
Let me tell you, it sounds so arrogant right now. I guessed it.
I knew.
But let me tell you why. It was because all of the clues that he was giving us were not subtle at all. It was like, now you have to make sure this person is guilty. Okay, so let's focus on this person right now. And then let's focus on this one. And I was like, okay, so they're not the killers. What are you doing? He doesn't let me guess. You know, it's not like a game, which is what I like in thrillers. It has to be subtle. He has to slowly build up all the clues so that we are able to properly guess until the end of the book. And that's not what happened. The only character he never talked about was Zoe. And whenever he did, it was because she was crying over her friends. So I was like, why are you not trying to get me suspicious of Zoe? Is she guilty? Probably.
Mhm.
And then Sebastian, it was also always about Mariana grieving him. So I was like, why are we focusing so much on this character and saying how perfect he is?
Yeah.
Probably because he's not, you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was just too obvious in my head. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like it's okay. I feel like we have the same criticism, but for me, it's that I just never saw it coming. And I love when I can like read a book and then I get the answer, and then I can think to like some places where I might have guessed it, and then I see like all of the little details that I had missed the first time around, but that now I see, and I feel like there was nothing.
There's none of that. Yeah, there's none of that. Yeah,
so I didn't guess it because there was nothing. You guessed it because there was nothing.
Yeah.
So, he didn't give us anything.
Basically, yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Except for that random like house cleaner lady who's like, I didn't like her very much. And I was like, why is she here?
Okay, but that random house cleaning lady was like the worst human being on earth, though. She was so awful. I was like,
okay, so I actually kind of liked her. Well, because you could bribe her with cake. I just thought that was so funny.
That was funny. It's her only redeemable quality, though.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want this woman to approach me with like a 6-foot pole.
Yeah.
Stay away from me. She was awful. Oh my god. Also, I don't know if you remember that, like, the lecture that the professor gives, like, right after Tara dies, and he's talking about, like, that specific ceremony, and everybody is, like, entranced, and then they all applaud at the end. I was like, okay, that was, like, a very ordinary lecture. Like, that was, I was like, wow, it looks pretty easy to teach at Cambridge.
Oh my god. That's what I thought too. Yeah.
I just thought that was funny. I just needed to point it out. But I did love to learn about that, though, because I had never read about that, like that particular ceremony, and with like Persephone and Demeter, because that's like one of my favorite Greek myths. So that was cool.
Yeah. Okay, I liked that. Yeah, I liked all those little references to Greek works. I love that.
Yeah. I also love like the concept of the postcards, even though at the end they didn't like do much, but I love that they were like left in like all of those little places, and like people would get them before they get killed. Like that element I love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of the. Also, what's with the swan? Do you guys have any like?
It just appeared, and then it was like on the coat of arm thing at the end, and then they kept looking at it, and they're like, "The swan is looking at me," and I'm like, "How can this be related?"
I kept staring at Mariana. I was like, okay, is there like some symbolism here? Am I supposed to like know? Is it like Persephone as a swan or Demeter or? Because I know that like a lot of Greek gods, like, you know, they're shapeshifters and stuff like that. So I was like, is that supposed to be like Persephone or what's going on? It was weird.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that random guy with the hat? What was his name? Morris or something?
Oh,
Morris, yeah. What?
Trash. Absolute trash. I liked him at first until he decided to have a
creep.
have a little session with his girlfriend in the graveyard. What the heck?
I didn't like, honestly, why is every man in this book a creep? Why? Why? Like, I don't get it.
Also, having sex in a graveyard is like the peak of dark academia aesthetic. Like, it's definitely, it always happens. Every dark academia novel, something weird sexual happens.
Sure. You do you, I guess.
I don't know why. But yeah, that was a really disturbing scene, though. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Did you guys think that this book reminded you of like the secret history minus like all the subtleness of the secret history? Like I felt like there were so many similarities between the two books, but this was like the super brief, like action-packed version without like the parts that make the secret history.
Yeah, that make it really, really long.
That make it long. I know that I think Mary, did you like it? But I don't think Sarah liked it.
I didn't like it too much.
I haven't read it. I haven't read the secret history.
You haven't read it yet?
I haven't either.
I read the Goldfinch.
It's so long. I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, I don't know if I would compare it to the secret history.
Yeah. Just with like the weird professor and his like very close like students and this like murder.
We didn't really hear about the students. Like we had maybe like 3 scenes with the Maidens, and that's also something that's a little bit disappointing because I was really hoping to like get to know them better and see like the dynamic between them, but we never got any of that, which is why I think this is more of a thriller rather than a dark academia. It's like a thriller with a sprinkle of like dark academia themes, but it's not a dark academia book at all. It's not like, because it's not about the student, it's not about the learning or like how learning can like twist your mind or whatever. It's just about like this weird guy and these girls who like love him. Which I also didn't really feel that he was that charismatic or like that dazzling, which once again might be because the characterization of all of the characters wasn't, I feel like, the strongest suit of this book.
Definitely. Yeah.
Did you guys feel like the end like went really quickly, like was very like brief? I wanted like a little bit more explanation and wrap up in the last few pages.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like she just basically like explained in like 3 paragraphs. Oh yeah, by the way, we had an affair and he married you for your money because he loved
came out of nowhere.
Like, what? And at some point I was like, okay, but like that wasn't her mind. Like she thought that like he loved her more than he did Mariana, but then I was just like, okay, no, wait, that's really like the only explanation we're getting. Okay, cool. Like, yeah, it went so fast.
I'm trying to think of who, like, what other characters were there in here that we haven't talked about.
I loved how exasperated the inspector was.
I know.
Because honestly, same dude. Like he's just trying to do his job, and there's just this woman showing up.
But he didn't do his job, though. Was he looking for something? Like, this book has one of my least favorite tropes ever, which is why are policemen always so dumb? I swear. Like, why? In every thriller, every mystery. Like, why?
Because
just do your job. Because it's convenient for the plot, and I hate that. I hate that so much.
I agree. I agree. I mean, I feel like we were following 2 different like crime solving characters. Like we had Mariana, obviously, and then we had like, the inspector. And obviously we focused more on Mariana, so we didn't know what the inspector was doing, but clearly he wasn't doing much. But I feel like it's because like no one would have no one would have suspected that this innocent girl was doing that for a man that died like 10 months ago, who she had an affair with that nobody knew about. Like,
I mean, the thing is, as an inspector in a crime scene, you have to suspect everybody.
Yeah,
that's the thing, right? Which is also our role as the reader. I feel like, at least for me, whenever I start reading a thriller, I always suspect everybody, right?
Yeah.
And I hope that the book will help me get through the ending with all the clues it leaves me. And I feel like that wasn't portrayed well here. Not by the characters, not by the author or anything. So,
I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
I feel like I felt like, so I can't remember, who of you have read The Silent Patient?
I think just Hillary.
Just Hillary.
Yeah, Hillary.
I felt like this book I felt pretty similarly about, that The Silent Patient read very quickly, and there was this very like big, dramatic, quick ending. But I also felt like similarly about the character development and like the pace and the structure of that book as well. So I feel like this is like his style of thriller, like very fast paced, very like plot based rather than like character development heavy.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. And that kind of goes back to what Sarah had said earlier, and then I agreed with about like that generic kind of formula almost.
Yeah.
Which I think is totally fair for a thriller. Like if you love like super fast-paced books with like a lot of elements of surprise and stuff like that, like that's super cool. But what I also love in mystery novels, and that's probably why I don't read a lot of them, because I find that a lot of them are like very generic reading, and they're just, really, they don't really focus on the characters. They really focus more on like the action and like trying to figure out who did it, but without necessarily going like in depth into the characters, which is what I love. So I feel like that's probably why it didn't resonate with me that much. But I was also really hoping that we would see more of like the Maidens, and we would have more of like, I mean, there was a lot of Greek mythology woven into this, but I feel like it didn't do much. Like it could have been like Shakespeare, and it would have like the difference, it would have been the same thing. Like it was part of the plot, but it also like wasn't as much as I thought it was going to be. Like she was so convinced that Persephone decided to kill her husband, which really surprised me. At first I was like, wow, okay. Fair, all right, cool. It was weird.
Were we supposed to think that like Fred was just creepy because he like knew and kept like dropping all these hints that were like very related to her life? And I'm like, maybe he's just like saying weird, like saying these things by chance that are like weird, or maybe I didn't know how to interpret that at the end.
He's flicking a dice, and then like whatever falls on it, he like takes a guess, and he was just right this entire
all the time.
No, but I feel like he might be like, the more that I think about it, actually, he might be like the Oracle character. Like if we read this as a Greek play, he's the Oracle character. Like he knows what's going to happen, and he knows what happened in the past. So maybe it's just like maybe the author just wrote this as like a Greek play. Maybe that's why there are parts too.
Maybe.
Maybe we could analyze this like that. Because like, she kept on referencing like at the end when she's suddenly like realizes everything, she says like, oh, this happens in like a Greek play where the main character realizes everything that was going on all along, and there's like a word for that. I don't remember what it was because I don't know Greek, but and yeah, like, so I feel like you could read that as like a classic Greek play, and maybe it would be better. Actually.
That's a good point.
Maybe I should think about that. But yeah, because like for example, another Dark Academia book, If We Were Villains, follows like a very similar structure as like a Shakespeare play, because the characters are Shakespeare students. So maybe that's like similar to that. Anyway,
I prefer that one actually a lot more.
Which one, If We Were Villains?
Yeah, I prefer that one.
And you didn't even really like it. So
Yeah, I mean, I gave it 3 stars. It was okay. Again, because it didn't focus a lot on the characters, but I thought the plot was interesting.
Oh my
So at
God.
least it was well done. It focused on the plot. It did its job, I guess. But
That's
I wish I knew
surprising.
more about the characters. Yeah.
That's surprising though, because I really love it for villains because of the characters.
Really?
So
Okay.
yeah. So that's
Yeah, I
funny.
thought the characters were fun. Like, I liked reading about them. I just wish I knew more about them.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, do we have anything more to say? It's been 45 minutes. It's not we don't have to rush into anything. I'm trying to think like what else is there to
Oh
talk
my gosh. Can I say one last thing? I hate it. I hate it. It's also one of my least favorite tropes. Like the villain's monologue at the end. What was that? Like Zoe kept talking
Oh,
on and on and on about her and Sebastian, and I was like, yes, we get it. Okay, moving
Okay.
on.
At the end, though, are we supposed to like? I don't want to like spoil the silent patient, so I'll just be careful. But Theo is a character in the silent patient,
yeah.
Mm.
and I was like, are we supposed to assume something from this or not? Like, I don't know. It just seemed like a weird place to end it.
I feel like he almost like let it open so that he would like maybe have a book with both of them as the main characters, and then like they have to like team up together or something, because like Theo is working with Zoe now.
Yeah.
And then at the end, like, she goes to see him, and I'm just like, oh, but like, is there going to be like a follow-up to this book? Like, are we going to see Zoe's perspective or like something like that? I don't know.
Yeah,
Who knows?
who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of explained, like you said, in that like super long monologue, but at the same time, it kind of wasn't.
It wasn't, because, again, coming back to the other point we made, there wasn't any clue about this.
Yeah.
She just suddenly explained everything that happened
Nowhere.
all at once, and it's like, it felt so random and out of nowhere.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed by who did it at the end, because I was just like, okay, well,
Yeah.
I could have never guessed that. It was like, it's a little bit far-fetched to me.
Yeah.
Like,
Hmm.
I don't know.
Definitely.
Sure.
Yeah.
Especially since he keeps on saying that, like, how perfect like her husband was, and like how much he loved her and how much he made her feel loved, and blah 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 blah. And then you learn like suddenly out of nowhere that he had an affair with her niece. Like, what? Like,
What? Yeah.
I'm like, why do you paint like such a pretty picture of this man? And then like you want me to believe that you're going, like, you explained that in like 3 pages, and I'm supposed to be like, oh, okay, cool. Like,
Yeah, that's fine.
It felt like the author changed his mind in the middle of the book. Like, let's just make Sebastian guilty as well. It felt to me like that. I don't know.
it just kind of came out of nowhere to me.
Yeah, exactly. That's why. Yeah.
Wait, so how did Sebastian just like die, like he just like drowned as an accident, or was there, that's it? Okay. I always thought like they were gonna come back and be like, oh, something like he was murdered.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah, me too. But then I was just like, okay, that would be so dumb. And then it kind of happened. And I was like, oh, fudge. I was like, yeah, like, because he's so like perfect and everything. I was like, okay, that's a little bit suspicious. And then, but I was like, okay, no, he's dead. Like he's fully dead. And then, then he did that from the grave, apparently.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit weird. But
The other book that this reminded me of, kind of, I haven't read The Secret History, but I thought this was kind of similar to My Dark Vanessa, just with like the teacher-student relationship and that dynamic.
Okay. Yeah, I see that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I love that book. I mean, how can you love that book? But anyhow,
oh, I know what you mean.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's an interesting comparison.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, maybe because they didn't realize how abusive it was. So yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then like, I feel like, we talk like Mariana is so certain that like he's, like sleeping with all of them, and like with the Maidens and all of that. And then at the end, it gets confirmed in like 2 sentences, and we're like, oh, okay. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Also, what was all of this stuff about Tennyson's picture? I was like, I feel like I'm supposed to like understand. Like, I feel like this is supposed to be really meaningful, but I'm really confused. Like, was it just that he like was grieving the person he was in love with, and she was grieving the person that she was in love with?
I think that it was mainly that, but yeah, me too. I was like, is there like more symbolism or something? Especially when she came across like the picture, the portrait. In the room, I was like, okay, like he's looking at something. Is he looking at like something that will be a clue, like over her shoulder? Because sometimes, like like in different mysteries that I've read, there's like paintings like are a big part of it. So I was like, ooh, okay, like is this like a part of that? And then it was just like about him like grieving. But I feel like I don't know if it worked like the effect that it was supposed to work, or if it was. Or if it feels a little bit random. But I love to learn about him, though.
Yeah.
I also love to learn about Cambridge because I've never been to Cambridge and I need to go and visit. It looks so pretty. I've been to Cambridge, but never Cambridge.
Yeah.
I did like the setting. Like, I thought it was like a little bit repetitive that they're like, now we're going to go to the cake store, and now we're going to go to this random bar, and now we're going to go to this other random bar. But I liked like, they were like, oh, it was like old, and I don't know. There were parts that I thought were
I felt
got me in the mood, but I don't know.
Yeah, there were so many bars. I was like, what?
I know. Like everything happened in the bar.
I always went for a drink at like a different bar, and I was like, okay, I get that this is like a university town, but my God, there's a lot of booze consumed around here. But I agree with you. I love the setting and like all of the kind of like misty morning, like all of that. Like I love that. I did
that. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like the true, like, do you remember that scene where she goes to the theater and there's like that random guy just like destroying the set?
What was that about him?
I was like, oh, I feel bad for him. Like his whole thing got like derailed.
Yeah.
But also like, what? This is very random.
But also someone died, dude. Like, can you priorities, please?
Yeah.
Like, okay. It sucks that your play got canceled, but also like keep it together, please.
It's not that serious. Yeah.
I mean, jeez. And also like another time where she went like somewhere, and like if I had been her, I would have just like turned around and left, because that he I don't know, she had like a way of just really walking into rooms with like obviously very violent, weird men. Being like, okay. So that's why I'm like, if a woman had written this book, I feel like it would have been a little bit different.
I hope.
Yeah.
Because
I feel like Riley like if you compare like Riley Sager, so he's a man who writes female protagonists, but I feel like I relate to his female protagonist more than I like related to this one. And I think Riley Sager's books are like pretty fast paced for the most part. Like they are very plot driven, but at the same time, it's not just like dropping these characters that like don't make any sense. Like I feel like they have a bit more of a backstory and are more understandable as people than maybe Mariana.
Yeah, I agree with that. They seem more like thoughtfully put together.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Maybe not his last book, but
yeah.
Would you guys read another book by this author? I feel like I know Mary's answer, but I'm curious.
Probably not.
I'm not sure. Just because I'm not like the biggest thriller fan in the first place.
Yeah.
So like the silent patient never really like got my attention, because I was like, that's a thriller. I know I don't really read a lot of those, so like I don't think I'll read it. And I've seen like Liv from Stories for Coffee. We have very similar reading tastes, and she actually like read The Maidens and rated it like 3.5, 4 stars, and then she read The Silent Patient and absolutely hated it. So I'm like,
really? Oh no.
Maybe I wouldn't like that one either, because we do have like very similar tastes. But yeah, I don't know if I would. I feel like if the themes were like maybe similar to like this one, or like something that really interested me, maybe I would. because that's mainly like the main reason why I was like, oh, okay, I'll read this, because it's about like Greek mythology and stuff.
Yeah, same.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and like the Dark Academia vibes. I do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
think-
don't know. Maybe.
I think I would consider reading him again, but I'd want to read reviews first. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
because I liked The Silent Patient. I think I liked it more than this one, but I don't know. If it feels formulaic, then maybe I would pass. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's the thing too. I feel like I don't know. Like it's just I feel like anyone could have written this. Like, you read it and it's not like, it doesn't have like a specific style or like format, unless maybe like I have to like, search more into that like Greek play thing that I was talking about. But like other than that, I feel like it was pretty generic thriller, and it's just not something that I normally gravitate towards. So yeah.
What about
I feel
you?
like we
Sophia?
all like became more negative about the book as the live show went on. Like at the beginning, we're like, it was decent, 3-4 stars. Now we're like, oh my god, I hated this.
It's because I slowly started to see all of the things that didn't really make sense.
Yeah.
I read it and I was like, oh my gosh, this was fun. I liked it. It was super enjoyable. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Like some of these things don't work. But I mean, I still think it was a fun time, and I would still recommend it. Like if you love trailers, and if you love stories set into like, the boarding school aesthetic and stuff, I would still recommend it. It was still fun.
Yeah, I agree.
So, do we want to wrap this up and talk about the book that we're going to be reading for the next 2 months?
True.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody have the book? I don't.
I
Not
don't
yet.
know.
I don't
Okay,
have it yet.
Well, the book that we're going to be reading for the months of September and October is A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Lee, which is once again a book set at a school. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
We did that twice in a row. But this is basically like a book that is set into a boarding school, and we follow different main female characters, and there are like weird witchy stuff. There's like weird witchy murder happening, and that's pretty much all that. And I think there's a sapphic romance, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, I think
something
so.
like that. And that's the book that we're going to be reading. I'm really excited to read it personally.
Yeah, me too.
It sounds
Me too.
perfect for October to chat about
Exactly.
near Halloween.
Yes.
I'm so ready. I'm so ready. Oh my god.
For all of the like spooky vibes. I'm
Yes.
so excited. And the live show will be taking place towards the end of October. I think we said on the 23rd because Mary has a spooky wedding happening. So
I do.
So it's probably going to be around the 23rd, and we might have some other announcements to make in the next couple of weeks. So keep you guys open for that. But I think that's pretty much what we had to say about the book. And as always, follow us on Twitter and on Instagram so you don't miss anything. All of the links are in the description box below. There's also a Discord that we need to be more active on.
Yeah, I definitely do.
But if you want to join us, definitely also join us on Discord. And we can't wait to read the next book with all of you and have a lovely discussion as always. And thank you for joining us. I don't know how many people joined us today, but thank you so much if you're still here.
Yes.
And I think that's pretty much all that we needed to say. Any last thoughts about the Maidens?
I don't think so.
Not really.
I think we spoke about it like a decent amount. I think we said a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess with this will be the ending of today's live show, and we look forward to seeing you in 2 months in October.
Yeah.
Yay! All right. So have a nice day, everyone, and we will see you very soon. Bye.
Bye. Thank